Bangladesh faces a period of considerable political uncertainty after the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government. Now, several major political forces are now expected to struggle for power. The military, political parties like the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the Jamaat-e-Islami, and the massive students' movement that triggered Hasina's downfall. So, what we're going to do in this video is lay out some of the scenarios for Bangladesh moving forward. The first scenario is extended interim government rule. Now, given the chaos surrounding the final hours of Sheikh Hasina's tenure as Prime Minister, with millions descending on the streets to oppose her regime, the interim government has taken control. Its first order of business, of course, will be restoring stability. The interim government is headed by Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus and it's backed by the Bangladesh army. So the interim government is set to be formed soon on Thursday, and eminent civil servants, business persons, former soldiers and academics are rumored to form the bulk of this new body. But restoring order and stability in the country could take considerable time. And some have suggested that an extended period of military-backed interim government rule could be on the cards. To be sure, Bangladesh's military has actually intervened in politics in the past and has even ruled the country outright. But experts also believe that the country's military has little interest in directly exercising power for a long period of time. Its previous spells in government have damaged its public reputation, and therefore the length of the military-backed interim government's rule remains uncertain at this time. In fact, Riba Ganguly Das, who is a former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, stated that unless Bangladesh and the interim government are able to return to stability and bring law and order back, it is not going to be possible to build a government and get away from the presence of the army in putting the whole interim government together. It's also important, however, to recognize that the army has not issued any martial law order. And that's important because it may mean that the interim government, backed by military rule, does not plan to stick around for a very long period of time. The second scenario is political deadlock. And there's no denying that the various political groups that have been vying for control in Bangladesh have very little in common. These groups range from the students who helped topple Hasina's government to established political parties and Islamist political groups. These differences could make any political cooperation to rebuild Bangladesh a lot harder. In fact, High Commissioner Das told us that there's going to be a lot of tension between these different groups because these players come from very, very different places. Scenario 3, elections are held, but they return India-skeptic parties to political power. Fresh polls in Bangladesh could bring back the opposition parties into power. One of the obvious choices is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which has also ruled the country in the past and one of whose prime leaders is Khaleda Zia. Khaleda Zia, of course, has been Prime Minister of Bangladesh in the past for several terms. And another part of this new coalition that replaces Sheikh Hasina could be the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is an Islamist party. Now, the BNP and the Jamaat have been political allies in the past. BNP leader and former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia, who you're just mentioning, has just been released this week, and Jamaat, which was banned by the Hasina government, has held a press conference discussing the path forward for the interim government. Now, renowned strategic affairs expert Harsh Pant told us that in case of elections, and certainly at the moment, the extremists seem to have momentum on their side in the political process in Bangladesh, and therefore Jamaat and the BNP could turn out to be the most important political actors in Bangladesh at this point in time. But others, of course, add that the two parties are not as strong as they once were. In fact, High Commissioner Das, who we spoke to before, said that both the BNP and the Jamaat are weakened in terms of electoral politics since they have not participated in elections for some time. Scenario 4 is a new political formation that could rise to power. Remember that the driving force behind Sheikh Hasina's fall was the students' movement, which protested against the government's reservation policy. These students have developed as formidable political actors. They rejected army rule and proposed Muhammad Yunus as leader of the interim government. So they have got their way. But they've also articulated a vision of a progressive country with more democratic rights. And this could form the core of a new political formation. But it is also unclear whether the movement can stay united and force political outcomes in the way that they want over a long term. As Dr. Pant told us, it is yet to be seen how the student movement manages this political transition. Judging by past history, these movements may not necessarily be the most conducive to guarantee long-term governance and stability.